Well, our job is to create a daily conversation. It's to keep the issues of the world in people's minds. It's to create a forum, but also to create some buzz, to get people talking about what's most important in their community. The only way you can do that is engaging not just their brains, but also their hearts. You can engage people's brains with statistics, but it won't touch their hearts. To touch their hearts as well, you've got to tell stories. Because it's got to be part of, they've got to be able to take the facts of the day and make them part of their own personal story. If people can't internalize something, if they can't go to the water cooler the next day or that morning and say, you know what I heard? That's what is the beginning of the conversation. And that's frankly what's the beginning of social engagement. You know what I heard? It's something that changed me a little bit. It changed my story a little bit because it touched my heart as well as my head. And then you get a conversation, and that really is something that engages people further. So we're dependent on that process because that's what we do. What we've learned to do in the media is to find ways of engaging people first in frankly their common humanity, and it starts with stories. You know, Joseph Atkinson was a remarkable character. He grew up poor. He knew need, and although he had great success as a newsman, that never validated for him being indifferent to people who didn't have great success. On the contrary, that he felt created an obligation for him, created a mission for him. That's to see that everybody enjoyed the benefits of social justice. He grew up during a period when it was great to be rich in Toronto, but it was horrid to be poor. There were no social programs for people. There were literally people starving outside of City Hall. And Atkinson saw that, and in decades, literally 4 decades as publisher, he created a series of crusades, went hand in hand with progressive groups throughout the city and throughout the country. And we're not talking about crusades of a week, which is pretty typical, frankly, in our society today, where we forget so fast. We're talking about crusades of a decade, of 2 decades, of the kind of reform that goes to the fundamentals of how people work together, that goes to fundamentals of how we support needy families, how we support seniors. And that crusading, those principles have always been fundamental to this organization since. And we sum them up for ourselves anytime we need reminders. It means a commitment to social justice. It means a commitment to working people. It means a love of our city and a love of our country. It means that we understand that we're not here for nothing. We're not here just to make money, to turn profits. You know, we're here for change. We're here to make this a better city for everybody to live in. We're here because we believe in a strong and united Canada, and a Canada that can make it a better world to live in. So in that way, we're very different from all of the other institutions, the media institutions in this country. We have a very clear and clearly articulated, I think, social purpose. And it's something that we're proud of. We do that. There's a lot of work on the editorial pages. The reporting, we insist, be objective, clear, fair, balanced. But we have an agenda of stories that reflects our deeper commitments, that reflect that commitment to social justice. Again, I think it makes us unique, and I think it makes this institution great and necessary. I think we're in the midst of an incredibly exciting time. In the midst, because you never know when it begins, and by that token, you never know when it ends either. But we've been governed in the Western nations for a while by a story that said, the economic relations that people have now are natural, and the market decides, and the market's highly efficient, and you really can't do anything to influence it because, regulation is just going to get in the way of the efficiencies that are going to turn out the greatest good for the greatest number. And one of the things that I think we recognized over the last couple of years, over this period of extraordinary economic insecurity, is that story was wrong. And the rationale for that story has really collapsed. The belief that the market should decide that they should be free is the cornerstone of that was the high efficiency and the security it provided. We see now that for many, many people throughout the Western world, it hasn't provided security. It's particularly true for the young and the old. And it also hasn't provided efficiency. It's provided huge inefficiencies as we now have unemployment numbers throughout the Western world into the double digits again, which will, over an extended period, have a terrible impact on the social fabric of our communities. This is an opportunity, however, for those of us who have been continually engaged but not always heard because of this dominant story, to begin to craft a different story, to try and reinvigorate a story that we believe in, and that is that not that big government matters, but that good government matters. That regulation can create the right kinds of circumstances to ensure social justice for all. That social justice for all is, in fact, something that's achievable, and that we don't live in a natural condition where some people are left out. So I do think that we have in the next decade a real period where activists of all stripes have an opportunity to have a real impact on the story we tell ourselves, the story that we found a lot of our actions on, because I think we're in a period of transition now. We're clearly also in a period of transition in the technologies we use to tell stories and to receive stories. I think there are a couple of different strands there that are really fascinating. One of them is the degree to which that technology has atomized us, has taken us and created solitary units. And clearly society had created the possibility for that, the basis for that. So I think of people walking along with their iPods, people walking down the street, talking in a solitary fashion to somebody else, one other person in a world that they're no longer connected directly to. And I feel that is part of that rhetoric that I think it's important we throw off. That's part of the radical individualism. That's part of it doesn't matter if you're directly engaged in things because the markets will decide. You can be alone. You can be apart. I think that what's happened already inside the new media is the evolution of the social networks that create the possibility for the return of the use of these tools to create human connections instead of diminishing human connections. And while I don't think we've seen all that we will see in terms of their success, I look to the United States, to how the Obama campaign very successfully used social networking to hook people up so that they could become engaged together on the ground when they went to raise money and to get people to register to vote, and when they went to the polls. And I think that was a wonderful illustration of the degree to which the technology is just a tool. It's not a fact, it's not a story, it's just a tool. And if we use them right, some of these tools can support what we want, which is, a rebirth of engagement in all aspects of our society. It's possible now to think beyond, the polarities that clearly were created by the Cold War, where it really was individualism against collectivism. It was free-range capitalism versus communism. I think if we escape the polarities, we can be creative again, and we can start thinking about how we can create a whole new set of stories that that accent, the way old Joseph Atkinson did, our common humanity.